Hello, Chicagoland. Dr. Bob Blackwood here, and today we're going to talk about a subject that is dear to my heart, and that is contemporary science fiction. And we do this with the assistance of Martha Wilson and Tony Lacroix from the Senior Network here at CAN TV. And we have three guests today. The first, the farthest distance from me, at least physically, is Bill Shunn. Bill was a software developer and a technical producer of the web's earliest live concert broadcasts, and a science fiction author of novellas and short story. And Bill has been nominated for the Nebula, the Hugo, and the Theodore Sturgeon Memorial Awards. That's Bill Shunn. And next, a young lady who needs no introduction, because if you go in any bookstore, you'll see three of her books there, different ones too. Jody Lynn Nye, sometimes you see like 8 or 10. Jody Lynn Nye, a woman who spoils cats, has published at least 43 science fiction or fantasy novels and more than 110 short stories, and has a epic fantasy series, An Unexpected Apprentice. She's collaborated with Anne McCaffrey and Piers Anthony on different projects. She's received numerous awards and is well known throughout the world of science fiction and fantasy fans as both a writer and a teacher of writing. And finally, Edison Blake. Edison is a musician. Edison is a composer. Edison is a computer consultant. He's the author of the original Artificial Stud, which was published in 2009, and which I gave a good review to. The second completed novel is Tingleford. Well, let me try that again, Edison. Tingleford, A Dragon's Maw Tale. That was completed last year. And the one he's working on that I can't wait to read is Undead Vikings in Love, or The Landing Party, which is in final rewrite. I've always wanted to meet a zombie vampire, and I can't, but I could meet a zombie Viking if I go with Edison's product. So, Bill, since I called you up first, I'm going to start with you. All right. What are you doing these days? What sort of things are you writing?
Well, I've recently had a small collection of short fiction come out called An Alternate History of the 21st Century. It's all near-future science fiction.
Okay.
And a novella that I co-wrote with Daryl Murphy, a Canadian writer, called Cast a Cold Eye, which is about an orphan who gets mixed up with a spirit photographer in Nebraska in the wake of the Spanish flu epidemic.
Wow.
And the novel I'm finishing up right now is a young adult novel called Endgame, about a group of high school kids in Chicago who develop magic powers and use the scientific method to try to figure out why this happened.
It sounds like a mixture of fantasy and science fiction.
That's what I was shooting for.
You've done it again, and you're hoping for a long TV series out of it.
That would be wonderful.
And not impossible either. Well, that's good news. Well, let me have Jody have a few words here. Jody Lynn Nye, tell us what your latest project or projects are that are worthy of mention.
Well, let's start with the one that's about to come out
Okay.
in April of 2011. I have a science fiction novel that is humorous military science fiction.
Now, you can get military science fiction, but humorous military science fiction,
well,
that's the challenge.
If you picture Jeeves and Wooster in space, you'll be pretty close to it.
Bertie Wooster and Jeeves in space.
Completely. I have a feckless young noble who is amongst many useless nobles in the galaxy.
Oh, a
And
total degenerate almost.
He would dispute that.
But he's somewhat British, so he can't be totally degenerate.
Well,
at least
he's foolish and good-hearted.
Ah, foolish and good-hearted.
But a little rash, a little spoiled, a little pampered, and Commander Parsons looks after him and keeps him out of trouble. So
Good show.
it's a lot of fun, and I'm looking
Okay.
forward to seeing what happens with that. It's got a wonderful cover by David
Okay.
Mattingly. It's coming out from Baen Books.
Okay.
I just turned in the first of the Myth Adventures of Oz and Skeeve, which I wrote by myself after the death of my writing partner, Robert Asprin, who premiered the series in 1978.
It's been a long time.
has
That
been a
man
long
had a
time.
great sense of humor.
He did. He had a wonderful sense of humor.
And you do as well.
Thank you. We enjoyed so much working together. We had a terrific time. We worked on 9 books together, 8 in the Myth Adventure series, 7 of them novels. And I miss him greatly, but I hope that I have carried on in the spirit.
Oh, that's
So very likely
good.
for sometimes fate has a way of letting you know that you're in the right place at the right time. This book is called Myth Quoted, and
myth quoted.
Myth Quoted.
Myth quoted.
All of them have myth in the title somewhere. Myth Inc. in action, Little Myth Marker, Another Fine Myth, which was the first one. And this one, strangely enough, just because of what has ended and what is about to come, it concerns an election.
An election.
An election.
Oh, we don't know anything about those.
No, not here in Chicago, where it is a spectator sport.
Yes, everybody gets their chance.
Yes.
Well, Edison, tell us what you're working on that you're happy about.
Well, I'm pretty happy about Undead Vikings in Love, but I do want to dispel one thing. They aren't zombies, so you'll be disappointed.
Oh.
They are Vikings who happen to be very robust and deeply in love because they're cursed by the gods to be in love. And they fight a battle every day and then die every day and get up again and fight it again. And I thought that's an old myth. And I just thought for fun I'd throw in a bunch of college students on a remote island in the middle of nowhere. So it is contemporary fiction. And these Vikings are helping me explore all the different nuances of love. And of course it helps to have college students when you're talking about nuances of love.
Yes, they're all experienced
Yeah.
in various nuances. Yes, I know. I taught them for 33 years. They won, and I left.
Yeah.
It seemed fair. Well, let's see. Well, Bill, I'm going to ask you a think question,
Okay.
and then I'm going to ask you a silly one. First, the think question. What writer or writers do you feel has influenced, well, let's look at your science fiction / fantasy worlds, because I know you've written many different things.
Across the spectrum, the very earliest science fiction writer that had a great influence on me was Isaac Asimov. I ran across his short stories back in junior high school and was immediately taken and immediately started trying to write exactly like Asimov, which of course doesn't work, but I kept at it.
Okay.
Some of the other influences over the years have been Gene Wolfe and Tim Powers. And I'm not at, of course, either of their levels, but I see a lot of their techniques and so forth creeping into my writing.
Not a bad thing.
Okay. Well, the first
Shoot high, right?
first science fiction novel I read was Isaac Asimov's Caves of Steel. I think I was about 9
Love that
or
book.
maybe 10. And boy, it had a big influence on me. I could relate to that. And it was a vision of the future, which is yet to come, but seems to be approaching. Just over the rainbow.
Beginning to.
Now I have to give you a silly question. I want you to look in the future and tell me what kind of things you'd like to be writing in the future. I say silly because who knows what the future will bring, but what would you like to do?
I have plans. I have a whole list of novels that I'd love to write. I'd like to get through the 3 books in this Endgame series about the Friends in Chicago, and then write a series of novels about a space station. I've written a novella set on a space station called Netherview Station, with a 15-year-old boy again as a protagonist. And I'd really love to explore that world some more. About 1,000 years in the future on a space station where 2 million people live and spaceships are coming and going all hours of the day. I think it's a really rich environment for stories. I'm looking forward to exploring it.
Yeah. And since it's a novel, you can afford to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas television shows, they keep wanting to show us the same characters, and then they bring in somebody that hasn't appeared in any previous show, and they disappear at the end of the show, and
Right.
we never really get the feel that it's really that cosmopolitan an environment. Well, Jody, I guess I should ask you, who were your major influences? Now, I'm the oldest person here, so I guess if, aside from Asimov, I start thinking about Wells. But you're younger than I by far, so tell us.
Well, one of my primary influences, and strangely enough a little bit in science fiction as well, is Mark Twain.
Ah, that's
Terrific,
right.
wonderful storyteller.
Yeah.
Fantastic designer of characters. And amazing man for drawing ideas out. Now, he also wrote a science fiction fantasy story. I'm not entirely sure what it was, called The Mysterious Stranger.
Yeah. Some people thought that was an anti-religious book, but I don't know why.
I'm not sure. He followed all of the rules of describing his mysterious stranger, and I found it to be mind-blowing. You go away from it thinking, my universe has changed, and I have to figure out what to do about that. Of course, Isaac Asimov was an enormous influence on me. He had a facility for putting ideas directly from his brain into yours without seeming to have anything intervening, and that is an incredible gift. When I read his Nine Tomorrows collection, especially Nightfall, I realized that that was science fiction. That was something that could not take place on Earth, could not take place within my realm of experience. Probably the earliest science fiction I read was the Incredible Flight to the Mushroom Planet, when I was just old enough to pull books off the library shelves. So there were stories out there for children, and they were delightful. I also read The Forgotten Door by Alexander Key and The Runaway Robot by Lester Del Rey, who, of course, was the publisher of Del Rey Books.
Oh, yeah. I read a lot of Del Rey stuff.
I've been influenced since then by a lot of incredible people that I'm proud to call my colleagues. I dare not say that I'm equal to them in any way.
Okay.
Anne McCaffrey, Terry Pratchett, Arthur C. Clarke, Paul Anderson. I love his work. Fantastic writers, and I always find new gifts in their books.
Well, you've written so many books. I mean, 43, most of them focused on science fiction or fantasy, whether criticism, history, or whatever. What sort of things do you think you'll be doing in another 5 or 10 years?
Well, I hope I'm going to be writing my second Academy Award-winning picture.
Oh, good.
Which necessitates writing the first
I
Academy
know
Award-winning
you
picture.
worked as a film doctor, didn't you, on a script or two?
I have doctored scripts.
Okay.
And I was a film major in college.
Okay.
But I ended up writing instead.
So you want to be holding a golden statuette, wearing an attractive gown,
absolutely,
and with far too much jewelry.
If at all possible.
I understand.
I'll see if Harry Winston will lend me any. But yes, I would love to see some of my work done as films or television. I've got a few things that I thought were extremely filmic.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Well, your name is well known. Edison, who were your major influences?
Well, initially, Heinlein and Edgar Rice Burroughs, those are the people I started reading first and really got me interested in reading more and more science fiction. But then later on, and I think those who influence me more now in my writing would be like a Theodore Sturgeon or Douglas Adams, Kurt Vonnegut.
I see the Adams and Vonnegut influence, believe me.
Well, and they put a lot of kind of odd quirkiness to their writing, and then also